Alex from Heavy New York, calling from the quarantine zone again, and this time we got round 5 with While She Sleeps. We return with Laz. Thank you so much for your time today, man.
No problem, dude. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's so awesome to have you here. I got to tell you, I was really excited to hear that we're getting another While She Sleeps album out in 2021. Do you consider Sleep Society, the brand new album, to be just a direct continuation of So What, or is this almost kind of like a new beginning for While She Sleeps in a way?
Like we approach it like it's a clean slate, you know. I think a lot of the sort of themes and messages running through, the songs and albums from even the first one we've ever done are themes of like unity and sort of community, if you like. And just I feel like it's quite easy to feel like the world's completely going to shit around you. I don't think that's a new thing that anyone feels, but I feel like it's the unity vibe within that sort of brings us together. We all kind of know where we're at politically in the world, but it's the fact that what else are we going to do? Let's celebrate it. So it's one of those things. We always want a positive mental sort of a positive mental attitude to come out of our records, and if we can sort of bring that out in a live sense, then yeah, that's what we're aiming for. But this, so what in terms of sound and sort of direction was I think a little bit more experimental. It was the first time we'd started using sort of vintage synth sounds and sort of playing around with that sort of thing. But yeah, it's definitely another interesting record from us. And like I said, we try not to preempt too much what we plan to sound like, and just sort of go with the flow and make it happen as organically as possible.
hmm Do you consider the first 3 singles that you released, "You Are All You Need," "Nervous," and the title track "Sleep Society," to maybe be a good representation of what the entire new album is going to sound like, or is that just one little taste of it?
No, I think they are a good representation. I think there's a lot of different stuff in this new record from us, and I think it's a a big collaboration of everything we all like. I think initially, in 2009 and before that, sort of 2007 onwards, I was friends with the band just before I joined, and but sort of from 2009 onwards, the mutual love that we had was early metalcore. Like when we first heard bands like Darkest Hour and Unearth and you know bands like that, Killswitch, As I Lay Dying, Shadows Fall. That was like they were the bands that we sort of fell in love with, for being from the UK and hearing all this awesome metalcore coming out of the US. But obviously, from we've been in a band for such a long time, and we've all developed our own sort of music taste. So I think what you see now from our records is just a collaboration of all that different stuff. And I feel like no matter what genre you're into, whether you just like rock or whether you're into hardcore, post-hardcore, whatever you want to call it, I think there's something in this record for you.
Yeah.
If you're open-minded in terms of genre.
Yeah, and speaking of metalcore, I've been saying it as a joke now. I think metalcore is the greatest export of Britain now, because what are the other metalcore capitals of the world? So you have Britain, which you Bring Me the Horizon, Architects, Bullet for My Valentine, Askin Alexandria. You have the Massachusetts metalcore bands, the New England metalcore bands, Killswitch, All That Remains, Shadowsoul, and now Australia with Parkway Drive and Heart's Wake, Polaris, and so many others. So I'm saying like if I was in like a American history class when we were studying, world history and all that, I would have done a full report. Metalcore, the greatest export of Britain.
Nice, yeah. I think for me, for a little while, like, and this isn't slating the genre because I love it to bits, but I think became like a dirty word for a little while, kind of like emo. And I was like a huge emo fan when that was all like kicking off in like the late sort of 90s, early 2000s, or whenever it was. But yeah, like I was huge into that. And I think for a little while, metalcore became a dirty word. I think it was getting quite easy for a time for bands to put themselves through the sort of metalcore machine and come out with the sort of verse, chorus, singing, screaming, and it was like a lot of metalcore bands get quite easy to predict, if you like, the structures and formulas. I think really nowadays what makes a great metalcore band is being able to hold on to your own sound, but still being able to call yourself metalcore. I guess that for me is what makes a good metalcore band nowadays. And yeah,
Well,
I'm always looking for something a little bit different.
Well, I always ask, like, people, what is metalcore? This is my favorite discussion to have, and I was just interviewing of Mice and Men recently about this. And like, when I ask people what is metalcore, 9 times out of 10, they usually answer, "Oh, it's music that has singing and screaming in it." I'm like, okay, but would you call Fear Factory metalcore or Opeth metalcore
Exactly.
or Soilworks
Exactly.
metalcore? Like, so like to you, what makes metalcore? Because I'll definitely call Shadow's Fall metalcore, and I love Shadow's Fall, but I also call While She Sleeps metalcore, and
Yeah.
but I don't think you guys really sound much alike either. So
Yeah.
I wonder what is in both really.
Yeah, it's an interesting conversation as to when metalcore sort of came about. This might sound like a weird one for me, and I think up until, well, I think forever they've just been called a metal band. But when you listen to them, I think that In Flames are actually one of the first bands to sort of have that metalcore sound. When you talk, for me, metalcore, like early As I Lay Dying, when your both guitars are playing in harmony with each other, one just an octave different, and you have that sort of, yeah, the dual guitar. I don't know what you call it. I'm not a guitarist, but you know what I'm saying. The harmonizing on guitar and the scream vocals that sound really vicious. Um, that's kind of metalcore to me. And I think, like, I've had this conversation before with a couple of people. Like, I think that In Flames, kind of without realizing it, were like the first sound of metalcore. I do think to a degree as well. Like you mentioned, Soilwork. Then I think they kind of come within that bracket for me. Although I don't think at the time when those bands emerged, they were necessarily writing metalcore. They were just writing metal songs, but I think they really lend themselves to what is like true metalcore for me.
Yeah, well, in an interview with Brian Fair from Shadow's Fall, I heard that that when they started, because Shadow's Fall I would consider debatably to be the first band that kind of really had that title. They're almost kind of like the Nirvana of metalcore in a way, and
Yeah,
like they said, they were taking inspiration from two places. One was like New York City hardcore bands, and also those Gothenburg bands that you were just talking about. So I think you hit the nail on
yeah,
the head. I think it really is the sound of like the Swedish death metal bands combined with like the New York City hardcore bands.
that's awesome. I thought you were going to say I was nowhere near the mark with that one, but yeah, those bands to me really sort of sound like metalcore even before it sort of was a thing.
Definitely.
For me, like As I Lay Dying were probably All That Remains, Kill Switch, and As I Lay Dying were the ones that sort of really sort of stood out as early metalcore bands, sort of after bands like In Flames and Shadows Fall. Excuse me, but yeah, that's when I kind of started understanding what metalcore really was coming out of the US, and like As I Lay Dying completely blew my mind. To be honest with you, Tim's the reason that I started screaming. Like I used to put on As Lay Dying records as a youngster and just literally try and sound like Tim.
Yeah, I mean they're a fucking great band. I mean, the Frail, and what's cool is that they're a metalcore band, but like every album sounds different. Like that's off of Shadows or Security. That's off of Frail Words Collapse. That's off of the
Yeah,
Powerless Rise is my favorite one, but that was my album in high school. I graduated in 2012, so
yeah,
yeah.
awesome stuff, man. Yeah, such a wicked band.
Yeah. Now going back to like the concept and the idea of sleep society, because I think this is a really interesting point you bring it up, like the world going to shit and all that, because you were one of the last shows that we got to cover before the world went to shit. Like I remember you were on
Yeah,
your,
definitely,
and you
man.
completed your headlining tour too, right?
We actually didn't. We had to miss out on California and Vegas.
Okay, but only two
So
dates. I mean, you almost completed
yeah,
it.
yeah,
Like, you know,
yeah, very, very nearly. Yeah, yeah.
Insomnium, they flew here. They played one show and had to fly back. Like, uh,
Okay.
do you think that maybe the direction that the world has taken in with all this uncertainty and all this unrest maybe influenced this in a way, or were you already writing stuff for Sleep Society like even before, like right after you released So What?
Yeah, we already had the sort of wheels in motion for the Sleep Society. I think that our record "You Are We" was really the sort of catalyst for um, sort of wanting to work in this way. Um, for us, "You Are We" was such a successful record, and it was the first time we kind of stood back from management and labels and tried to move more independently. We released You Are We through a pledge campaign, and it taught us so much about our fan base and what people wanted from us as musicians and artists, and it taught us so much about that relationship between the fan base and the band. So that record was crowdfunded through Pledge, and it was sort of, like I say, directly from us to the fan base, and they were directly sort of the reason that we made the record in that way. We learned a lot from that. So sort of fast forward to two album cycles, and we just wanted to basically recreate that, but on steroids. Basically, we approached our fan base with the initial message with the first single, Sleep Society, just being that we feel like there's a lot of fractures that are appearing now in the way that the music is digested. Streaming platforms, it's really tough, and the way that they pay bands the royalties is, it doesn't really balance out, especially when you think of, like, it's over 5,000 streams to generate about 20 quid that goes to the artist. And this is what we say in the press conference at the beginning of the Sleep Society video. And there was just a few things that we wanted to sort of touch upon and tell our fan base, And I think While She Sleeps has always been one of those bands where we really want to drop the smoke and mirrors. We're not trying to wear, sunglasses inside and be above our fan base and above people that are into us or helping the band in any way. You know, we're all on a level playing field, if you like, and we really want that message to get to our fan base. And the way to do that is just be really honest about what we do. Um, we're kind of like the dudes next door who had a garage band that are still doing that. Do you know what I mean? And it's important for us to have that relationship with our fan base. So initially, there was a few things that we wanted to explain to our fan base, and basically one of them being that, the way streaming is 95% of music now, it gets really, really tough for bands, especially the more underground genres like punk rock and metal. They're the ones that suffer in this. And the message that we wanted to deliver was just one of trying to find a sustainable way to move forward, not just for established bands, but for up and coming artists as well. So that was the initial idea behind the Sleep Society. And, in return for this subscription based, platform, we throw in so much energy, and there's so many extra benefits in the Sleep Society for any of our fan base that are into it as much as we are and want to contribute in that way.
It's beautiful that you say that because I mean, like, I feel like, I mean, this is gonna sound really really corny at first, but like I feel like While She Sleeps was the band that I kind of watched grow in a way. So like I've been listening
Right.
to you guys since This Is Six, and or This Is the Six, and like like
Uh-huh.
I think going from that to Brainwash to You Are We and so on and so forth. But the first time I saw you was on the Arch Enemy tour that you did with Trivium.
Yeah, cool.
A great,
Yeah,
great
it's cool.
time. And that was actually that's when that tour was when we first started, when this channel first started launching. So that's when I first started
Oh,
covering press. And I believe it was Matt, he was the first member I interviewed at that tour. It was after the
okay.
set at the merch booth. And then I interviewed you at Sonic Temple. I interviewed you over the phone. It just seemed like I was able to kind of like watch you develop, and I think that's really cool that you were able to stick to your guns. And then seeing you on the first headliner tour, and so many people were excited to be there, and you all really connected with your fans. But it was still like the same band. I felt, like it wasn't like you went from opening to headlining. I still feel like you were always the same band, as you were always there with your fans and with everybody on your team.
Yeah, thank you, man. Yeah, it's something that's like crucially important to us, is maintaining that, you know, just that relationship with our fan base and being open and honest about sort of where we are as a group of people, and where we are in terms of, making this band sustainable. And once again, our fan base have, answered insanely and got behind it. Every time we put a message out, our fan base kind of sits with it for a little bit and then responds in such a positive way. I feel like it's very easy for a lot of bands to say, our fan base are the best, but it's, for us, it really does feel like we've made a community of people that are like-minded and just get where we're coming from, which, is very special. We say as a band, like, we feel like we could easily have a night out and a few beers with like 95% of our fan base.
Yeah.
And that's just what we want to maintain. We want to be, we are the dudes that sort of grew up, really loving bands. And I remember being sat on the back of the school bus and getting like spat at and punched for wearing like Corn and Slipknot hoodies, you know. But it was all about that sense of community that I got from these scenes and this community. So we're the guys that want to carry that on, and you know, Sleep Society is proving to be such an awesome community, and much more than just sort of a subscription based platform. It's a place where people come together, and it's, you know, it is a real community. And you know, we always want to be the guys stood at the back of the venue after we've played, watching the headline band. You know, it's
Yeah.
awesome, and be out there meeting people. So yeah, it's crucially important to continue that. To continue that going forward.
Yeah, and it almost that obviously could be the meaning of the album title as well, right? Because it seems like I know when While She Sleeps was playing, like I sadly missed your set at Sonic Temple because I was working in the press tent and your stage was 20 miles away. But like but like I knew that you were on stage. I just knew it. Like you get that sense, and I knew you were on stage at the Arch Enemy show, and I like so it just seems like that we always know we always know where you're going to be and when you're going to be on there. It seems like that While She Sleeps has its own sort of vibe behind it.
Yeah, it's weird, man. We've got like, in the same way, I feel like we really like a band called Thrice, and you know, when you meet people, other people that like Thrice, it's like, fuck, dude, yes, a Thrice fan. And I think we have that where there's like such a cult following, you know. If you're a Sleeps fan, it's like almost like you're a diehard Sleeps fan, you know. It's really cool.
Yeah. And I got a few more questions for you. When it comes to like the emotion that's channeled behind your music, because I remember like listening to So What, and to have a song like "Set You Free" combined with a song like "The Guilty Party," like that was all on the same album. And now even with this new album, I just got many different emotions behind it. Like I felt many different
Yeah.
vibes. Would you consider every While She Sleeps song to maybe be representative of what you and Sean and everybody else in the band were feeling at that time?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to sort of encapsulate how you're feeling, and you know, for me personally, as a lyric writer, it's sometimes hard to get exactly how I'm feeling down on paper. And I think all we try and do is best explain experiences that we've had. Like I said earlier, you know, the messages running through our songs and are always, we always want the outcome of a sleep show or of a sleep song to be one that's unified and a very positive message. You know, I think, you know, we all go through the shit, and there's so much negative stuff, negative space in life, and things that make you feel a certain way. And I think While She Sleeps just wants to let everybody know that they're not alone in that, in those feelings, and then they're not alone in, you know, in feeling like shit sometimes and feeling really negative. And I think that, you know, when we were growing up, there was so many death metal bands around, like talking about ripping people's heads off and like shitting down their throats and stuff. But you know, for us it was about, no, we want to step away from that and talk about stuff that we can really relate to, things, experiences that we've had, and experiences that we've actually worked through to sort of find balance or better ourselves. So you know, that's something that we wanted to push forward, and it's something that, like, with the lyrics in our songs and the connotations there, it's like we feel like we can stand by our message because we've kind of been there, and we try and write about things that we actually feel and things that are happening right now, and you know, things that we've experienced. So I think from our point of view, with this new record, like we mentioned earlier, you know, at the time we were writing it and bringing all the demos together, it didn't really feel like, I mean, it felt like a Sleeps record. It felt like the messages were there, and it felt like we were saying what we wanted to say. But it's really strange how now, working through a pandemic, when people probably feel more isolated than they ever have and are having a really difficult time, it feels like this album can be even more important for people. That if we weren't in this situation, it might not have been. You know, songs like "Nervous," I think they speak of it. They speak of the time. You know what I mean? I personally lost a friend to suicide in the first lockdown. Excuse me, and it just makes me wonder. You know, if he'd have had his core like network of people around him to be able to openly speak about these things, would we be in this situation now where we're having to grieve him? You know, so I think that for us, songs like "Nervous" and "You Are All You Need" and "Enlightenment," it's all about, you know, trying to find balance and looking after number one, and not sort of not having to seek acceptance and being proud of being different and being proud of who you are, whether whether sometimes that feels negative or sometimes it doesn't, and it's about dropping the walls, and boundaries there and stigmas, and just openly being able to talk to people about it. And I think, there's a lot of different messages in the song, but I think the overall one is one of like, you know we're all in this together.
And that's I've always said that like your music is so full. Like I can't like I. I feel like with so what was one of my favorite albums to come out in 2019. I don't know if you remember, it was up there in the top
Thanks,
10.
bro.
And
Thank you, man.
yeah, but like I just feel like your music is like if it's one riff over or one riff under, if it's one scream too long, it just seems so perfect. You know what I mean? And it's your usages of it's your voice usage that really intrigues me a lot, because there's elements of harmony, there's some of the most aggressive vocals on there, there's some
Yeah.
I could see you singing for Cannibal Corpse, and I could see you singing for Coldplay. Like I feel like you have that sort of um
Yeah, man, definitely.
do you find that maybe like the different usages of your voice is maybe a different way of expressing yourself, like you use the screams or the melodic vocals as a means of expressing different subject matters or lyrics and emotions?
Yeah, definitely, 100%. I'd say that. Like at times we're like angry about shit, and at times we're super chill about stuff, and want to deliver that message. I think just as we are as people, and how sort of quickly we can move through different emotions. From love to hate and just everything in between. I think that, yeah, that's just the way we want to express ourselves. And at times, like you say, the vocals are really heavy and screamy and loud and in your face, and at other times they're more fragile, they're more personal, they're more elegant, if you like. And I think that's just, for me personally, that's just me trying to showcase what I can do as a vocalist, but also, I never want to be a one trick pony where I just scream for this band. I like to think I can just about hold a note. So in that respect, it's nice to try and use my voice in that way. Obviously, anyone that's been following While She Sleeps over the years, and it's been, we've had to cancel American tours at times, um, because yeah, because of throat problems. So any different vocals that I can find in myself, trying to learn more techniques, and sort of further my arsenal, if you like, then I want to be able to use that. But I definitely think that you're right there. Like we use different styles of vocals, and different energies to convey a different feeling or a different message at times.
Yeah, and like and it because every emotion, like you, one song in itself, again, like I reference this song a lot. I must have mentioned it to every single interview I've done from the So What cycle, but the Guilty Party, that song
Yeah.
like it's like, and I mean this as a compliment, but like it's all over the place. Like it has some of the most
Yeah.
fastest aggressive parts, but then the way that it just pulls back, and then you have like the fun like harmonizing voice. It almost seems like you're going through an emotional roller. Obviously, you don't track everything at once. If you do, you're a god. But like, if you it almost seems like it's an emotional roller coaster from one part of it to the other. You know what I mean? I feel like
Yeah.
a While She Sleeps song isn't representative of just one singular emotion.
No, definitely. I think an emotional roller coaster is a perfect way to describe it. To be honest, I've never thought about it that way, but you're right. I think as human beings, the members of While She Sleeps, and the way that we sort of do things, and the way that we are around each other, and yeah, we are an emotional roller coaster. And I think for you to pick up on that is great, man. Because yeah, we're just trying to represent ourselves the best way possible, and yeah, I think we are an emotional roller coaster for sure. But I guess that the fans of ours, they feel like that too. So that's what makes the connection so good.
Yeah, your genre is gonna be called bipolar core.
Yeah, fair play.
Yeah. Yeah. So before we go, I want to thank you again so much for your time. And thanks as always for to you and all of your other band members who are always coming on this channel. I feel like I,
No
I
problem.
think you're officially now. I'm trying to think. Yeah, I think you have officially beat every other band. Yeah, I think you're tied with Revocation or the Black Dahlia Murder, one of those two. So you're
Black Dahlia Murder are a fucking awesome band, man.
Amazing,
Love them.
amazing.
Yeah,
Is there just
yeah.
anything else with While She Sleeps that you would like to promote for the release of Sleep Society in terms of like, are we going to be getting any live stream performances? Obviously, when this godforsaken virus that shall not be named is over and done with, we'll obviously be seeing you on the road quite a bit, right?
Yeah, 100%, man. I think that this is just a little bit of downtime. I think that when, I don't know when it's going to be, but when everything opens up, we'll be here, there, and everywhere for probably 2 or 3 years straight, I imagine. So, yeah,
Yeah.
our new record drops on April the 16th, man. And like I said earlier, I think that if you're open to genres, and you're not too much of a genre snob, then I think there's definitely something in this record for you. If you've never heard of us, it'd mean a lot to us if you could check it out. And just while I have, have you here, we've spoken briefly about my vocal troubles in the past and how I'm trying to work towards better in that. I've just started my own podcast called Throat Podcast, where I talk to other frontmen and women about their experiences with voice. And yeah, we've just launched the first episode today, actually, with Drew from Stray from the Path.
Oh wow.
So yeah, for any vocalists out there or anyone who's interested in hearing from possibly guys in bands and girls in bands that have the front men or singers in general, then yeah, check it out, and hopefully people are enjoying that.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Laws. Everybody, Laws of While She Sleeps, Sleep Society, out April 16th. This is Alex from Heavy New York. We will see you next time.